People. So in our last lesson, we're using Fluent. We were able to create this very basic equipment. It's just a tool. So this time around, let's go ahead and see what we can create. So the idea is to create like a sci-fi kind of hatch, and I'll quickly just use the pen tool. I'm using Affinity Designer, but you can use any tool you want. So the first thing in tool 2, I'll just fill this up with a nice background. I'll just set this to a kind of like mid-gray, like so. Then I'll switch over to my pen tool, and this time around I'll use a lighter shape. Oops, it's not working, so I need to have my shape first. So the idea is to create something like so. Just a basic kind of like sci-fi hatch. So this goes over here, this goes here, and this goes here, like so. So I'll just hold Control and click. This is not actually perfect, but it's just to get the rough idea of what I want to create. So for the fill, I'll just use a lighter value like so. And I could just want to, kind of use some guides to kind of like arrange these edges. I'll just use the shape tool and drag this over here. And what I can do is just drag another one over here. So I'll just put this here and put this here as well. And now I could use the shape tool to kind of like arrange this like so, and maybe like so, just to have a basic idea of what we're going to quickly create when we jump to Blender using the Fluent add-on. So just drag this over here. I think I have a little issue with this side, so this needs to be punched out a little bit more. But either way, you get the we all get the idea of what we're trying to create. So what we want to do next is just create some nice vents around this guy, like let's say like so. So we have this vent here, and I'll just change this vent's color to something slightly gray. Now what I'll do is just duplicate this using Ctrl J, and I'll hold V. I'll switch over to my move tool and just slightly drag this down a little bit. And now if I start pressing Ctrl J, this should have actually transformed. I think there's a better way to do this. I could just group all of these together using Ctrl G. And now I can just move everything kind of like down. And what I also like to do is add some bolts here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, or at the top if I want to. So and to do that, let's just head over to the tool. So we have a lot of tools here. I'll switch over to the polygon tool, and I'll set these sides to, I think 5 is a good number. Yeah, I think 5 isn't that bad. So to use this white color, I'll just click the color sampler, color picker, and just drop this here. And let's make that slightly dark. I'll just drag this and place this here and slightly rotate like so. And I'll do a Ctrl J, hold down Shift, drag this over here and select these two. I'll do a Ctrl J, and I'll hold down V, and I'll drag these to the bottom. And we could go on and on with this decal and keep going, but I think this is a nice kind of like shape to achieve. So what's my plan in Fluent using Blender? What's my plan right here? So we can actually see that we're going to have a cutter like this. So if I just quickly use the pen tool, we're going to have a boolean that will cut this edge like so. So I'll just change this to blue. So these are going to cut this edge. So if I duplicate this and I flip this, we have a shortcut tool that can flip this shape. So let me just switch over to V to switch over to the move tool, and I'll go over here at the top and flip horizontal and kind of like drag this here so we can actually see what's actually, cutting this edge. Now these two cutters are going to be the same for the bottom, and then we'll also have a rectangular shape like this, which we're going to need to create, that will actually cut out these holes. Let me send this to the top so we can actually use this to cut these shapes. And again, we also have this hexagonal shapes that we're going to need to create to cut out these bolts. So let's head over to Blender and see how we can create this with Fluent. So this is going to be our kind of like reference. In fact, what we can do is to save this and kind of bring it into Blender so that we have an idea. These are going to be our cutters, and then we will use that to create this vent. So I'm just going to go to File, Save. I'll call this shape, or let's just call this Sci-Fi Hatch 3. And I'll just drop this into my Fluent tutorials folder, and I'll just call this Hatch 03. So I'll call this Hatch 03. I'll save the affinity file, and I'll go to File, Save As, and I'll just save this as a PNG, sorry, export. So File, here we are, Export. I'll just export this as a PNG file. Good. So export as PNG, and I'll save it in the same place. I'll click Save. So now I can just quickly hop over to Blender and create go to File, New, so I can create a new project. I'm going to select our default cube and not sacrifice it to anything. I'll just tell it to go take a bath. So I'll click on this so we can hide that default cube. So now that we've hidden that default cube, what we're going to do is to just bring in that image as a reference. So over here, we could just go to Add Image, a reference image, and I'll just scroll over to the folder where I have this. I believe it's in my volume D, and my Camtasia, Fluent Tutorials, Hatch 3, Sci-Fi Hatch. So we'll load that reference image, and it's kind of here, but it's super weird. You can actually see how weird that is. So we can fix that by going over here to the object data properties for this image, and what we're looking for is just a axis to rotate this guy. Showing orthographic and perspective view. So this is the size. We don't want the size, we just want to align this. And we can also change the opacity, which is still not what we want. Let's see if we can apply any kind of like rotation to this guy, like so. So here I'll just set this to 0, 0, 0. I think that was the best place to actually manipulate this object. And we could just set this to, just rotate it like this. Alright, so we're just taking too much time. This is just going to be for a reference. I think we could just turn it like so. And just have it kind of like standing. And we'll just move this up a bit. And just push this back. Just so we can have, this image sitting somewhere. So this is where we can actually do that. I'll change this to -90. Set this to 0. set this to 0 as well. So let's just open up Fluent and try to, duplicate or replicate this shape. So first I'll press F, and what we want to do is just add let's create a shape. So I'll go to cut, add. It says select nothing, so good. So let's try that again. F and go to create. So we are actually selecting an object, so we need to deselect this object first, or else we'll have that issue. So let's try that one more again. So F, create, and let's set this to rectangle. So let's right click in this space, and let's create a rectangular shape like so. I just want to make this slightly bigger. So here, next, what I'm going to do is just make this slightly bigger and kind of like validate this thickness, because I like this, it's okay. So what we're going to do is to add a nice bevel to this guy. So I'll just go to F, add a bevel, and if we want to increase that bevel, we can just go here and set the bevel width. I'll just drag this to make the corner much more kind of like bevelly. And also what we can do is to go over here and turn on the cavity for both the screen and the world, so we can have a nice cavity around here. So next we will just try and create these edges. We'll create one cut on this edge, and we'll just kind of like duplicate that around this object. So next I'll select the object first, then press the shortcut key, and then go over to cut/add, and now right click over here. So we can actually use a rectangle to do the cut and then rotate the rectangle, but I just like using the shape tool to kind of like draw a nice shape around this. So let's use shift left click to validate that, and then we can just slide down using left to actually cut this guy. You could just easily press V to cut through the object, and we'll just validate that right now. So let's mirror this object around. So to show the cutter, we'll just press F, go up where it says Boolean visibility. Let's click that. Let's click the cutter. Let's go to F, press F again, and then go to edit, Fluent editor. So what we're going to do is to right click this guy and go to mirror. So we're mirroring along the X and the Y axis as well. So we actually have those 4 cuts showing through. So next let's create these kind of vents. So I'll press 7 just to have this at the top view, if you want, but I'll just leave it at that. And let's right click any empty space to validate this shape. So let's create some hatches at the bottom. So select the object, press F, go over to cut. I think we're going to cut some of those holes, and let's just create one right here like so, and just drag this. We can press V to have a clean cut around here, and let's zoom in. So what I want to do is just make this edges a little bit excuse me, smooth. So let's right click and go to first bevel and just drag this just a little bit, and that's okay. Let's validate. So next let's create an array to create this similar cuts down at the bottom. So I'll just right click and then go to array A, and I want this at the Y at the bottom. I'll just press C to kind of like duplicate that. I think that's enough. So I'll click and then click on validate. If I want to just drag this down, I'll just press G and press Y for the Y axis and just drag this down over. Let's just leave it around here like so. And what we want to do is to add these kind of like bolts around here. So to do that, let's just drag this up, and let's right click any empty space to validate this, and then let's create the those shapes around here, 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 and here. So to do that, don't forget to first click on the object, press F to bring up the Fluent tools. Let's go to cut and add, And let's use a circle this time. Let's right click to show the grid. If you want to increase the grid density, press and hold V and drag to the right. And you could just release V to have that. And let's have a circle just right here. So I'll click on that. And what we can do is just drag this out like so. And let's right click on this and let's validate this. So let's see what we have here. So let's reduce the number of sides or segments of this circular shape so that it looks like a hexagonal bolt. So let's right click and go to the resolution, and we could just drag this towards the left. I'll just hold shift and quickly drag towards the right and drag this like so. So yeah, I think this is good. This is what we wanted. So let's validate this. Before we exit, let's mirror this shape to the right and also towards the bottom. So let's right click and go to mirror. Let's mirror here and also here, so we can mirror at the both axes. And let's just click the center to validate. So now we have this. If we want to increase this size, we can always use the scale or the radius to increase the size of this shape like so. And each time we make one change, it's going to affect the other changes because this is a square object. So I'll just zoom in. Yeah, I think I like it as a hexagon, not a pentagon. So we have our hexagonal bolts like so. So now that we have this, we can always, kind of like add any other additional details. We can even use a slice right here at the top and then add some slices at the section. Then we can call this quit, or else we're just going to keep going. So let's quickly do that. So let's click on the object, press F, and let's go to slice, right click, and let's just draw a nice, slicey shape like so. And the slice is just going to create a nice cut through at the top, but it's not going to create and punch any holes in our object. And let's make this edges straight. So let's right click, go to first bevel, and right click again and go to straight, because we want to make this a straight cut like so. So I'll validate that, and let's mirror this on the x-axis as well. So let's right click and go to mirror, and let's click this axis just to mirror this and validate. And let's right click and leave that, and let's add another slice right here like so. So click on the object, press F, let's go to slice, and let's just create a nice slice like so. Let's drag in a little bit, just a little bit, to create that slicey shape, and I'll just leave this at so and right click to validate. Now it's a bit tilted towards the left, so let's edit that. So let's click this, press F, show booleans, click on this boolean object, and we could just quickly drag this to just slightly arrange this. So this time around, we don't even need to jump into the edit tool, and voila, we just have that. And finally, I'd like to add a nice little inset along the top and the bottom here. I promise this is the last one. That's what happens when you use Fluent. It's a fun tool to use, and you actually see that you're having so much fun and you wouldn't want to stop. It's very addictive. So here, let's go ahead and hide our booleans, and let's create our slice here at the top. So let's press F, and here what I'll do is just create the inset, and let's just draw, click on this face, and let's draw this shape here, and let's just add this nice fun looking inset like so. So I want this to just kind of like pass through the object. Right click, and let's see how it looks. Let's mirror it along the y-axis. So let's right click, go to mirror, and then mirror it down here. Right click and say validate, and let's right click anywhere, and you can actually see what the inset does. That's a nice cool looking inset on our object. So I'll just stop here so I don't overdo this. And basically, this is how we can create a nice sci-fi panel, and we can kind of like super duplicate this and finalize it and use it for anything we want. So once again, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next Fluent quick tip tutorial. Thank you.